And if you see me walking down the road, please forgive me if I do not stay. My feet are pointed at where I go, and I got a feeling today just might be my lucky day. 'Cause I hear an angel call standing in my gate. I see his smiling eyes and I know it's not too late. I've come a long way round. Please don't let me be behind. And I know that when I find you, I'm gonna be alright. Tell the people that I used to know that I'm changing for the better. You know I look just like a crazy fool, but there comes that one time in your life, but when you gotta do what you know is right. So I'm gonna take that midnight train, and I'm gonna ride it right on home to you. So open up those heavenly gates. You know I just can't wait. Even if I'm losing faith, well I'm going. And if you hear that whistle blowing, tell them that I'm rolling when I'm through. Did you ever go to a recommended movie and you're sitting in the back and you're feeling kind of groovy and you're waiting for the good parts to come? Then after 3 hours, there's no good parts. So you're thinking to yourself, I've never been so bored. Then you read in the papers that it won an Academy Award. Best Picture, Best Director. It's a runaway success. So you ask yourself this question: how could I be so right and be so wrong? Every time I think I understand what's going on, it's just before I fall upon my face. And then I feel like I'm running last in the human race. Well, it's like when you hear a good joke at a meeting and you come home late and your wife's there sleeping, so you wake her up to tell her and you're laughing all the time. And instead of being happy, she just starts crying. You didn't kiss her first. You've got no class, she says. Not too sure about that, but how could I be so right and be so wrong? Every time I think I understand what's going on, it's just before I fall upon my face. And then I feel like I'm running last in the human race. Well, just the other day my boss told me something he wanted me to tell someone else. Well, he said I could make or break the company, and the entire conversation depended on me. So I told him what I thought he said, but it must have been wrong, 'cause it made him mad, and I lost my job, and I fell down on my knees. How could I be so right and be so wrong? Every time I think I understand what's going on, it's just before I fall upon my face. And then I feel like I'm running last in the human race. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, worrying about life. Well, I've even learned a lesson from my distress. Well, it's a sure cure for instantaneous success. It goes like this. The higher you fly, the farther you've got to fall. And the better you think you know yourself, the less you probably know yourself at all. So you might as well be happy, even if you're feeling crappy. You might as well be happy through it all. On my way, no hurry today. I've got nothing I've got to do or say, except keep singing in my heart and seeing all things breathing night. I feel you now. I feel you here and now. Thank you for being. I reach out to share, to find my being out there, and inward you tell me, and inside I know. How can I tell you that I love you when you already know in my body and soul? I hear something inside and I don't know why. All I gotta do is smile. The clearness of my soul, the clearness of the one who knows. Thank you for being. Enter my heart, oh enter my soul, right here in this moment. I know you are. How can I tell you that I love you when you already know in my heart and soul? when I was here before. I can say clearly when you are here. You look so wealthy, dressed in your beggar's clothes. I was so poor that I didn't know. You stood above me there in the angry crowd, tried to take my life. Only when I closed my eyes did I really know. There you were, singing soft and low, sang it. There was a time I could have been given the choice to live or to die. I took my chance and drank from the bitter cup, tasting the world.
So it's like one will do.
But you stood above me there till the cup was dry, hearing me call. Did I really find you?
I hear the gong. Welcome, everybody. And we want to also welcome those who are joining us from across the world on the webcast. Yay. If you're joining us on the webcast, you can find your handouts at msia.org/broadcasts. There are 2 of them. So, how many people are new tonight? I see some hands. That's wonderful. Thanks. If you parked in the ramp and you didn't get a ticket to get your car out a little cheaper, then see Carol at the back before you leave. So tonight we are going to be doing Finding Peace in Today's World. It's sponsored by the Institute for Individual and World Peace and Peace Theological Seminary. Peace Theological Seminary is also called PTS, and they provide educational opportunities in learning the lessons of the physical and the spiritual worlds, kind of all mixed together. They are the teaching arm of MSIA, or the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness. MSIA has no formal membership, no formal dues, no rules, no regulations, and it was founded by John Roger on a few simple but profound principles. Those being, out of God come all things. God loves all of its creation. That includes each of us. And not one soul will be lost. First, I want to ask everybody to turn off your cell phones. I had a nightmare of mine going, woohoo, text message while I was in the middle of calling in the light, which we're going to do next. So If you can make sure everything's off, that would be great. And then we're going to be doing an invocation of peace and calling in the light and chanting Anahiu. So Anahiu is basically means to come into empathy or alignment with Hu. Anai means that, and Hu means God. So that's the intention of calling in the light and placing an invocation to peace. So we'll start with that. Dear Mother, Father God, we ask just now that we bring ourselves with you, with your assistance, into that place of peace that is inside of us. Because we know that as we come into peace and we hold in that, that is where peace starts in the world. We ask that if there's any limitations, any dis-ease within us that can be healed and lifted, that take place. And we ask as we go forward to bring that blessing of peace with us wherever we go. We're grateful to be your emissaries of peace and healing. Berush Beshan. Anna. The words Berush Beshan mean the blessings already are. So we're going to start with a moment of peace up on the screen.
Individual peace starts with you individually. It starts with your breathing as a fundamental response to life. It's not a radical approach. It's a very fundamental approach. Next time somebody around you gets an anxiety attack or an asthma attack or emphysema or something with the lungs, just suggest to them that they alter their breathing reference. Instead of breathing up here like this, that's just making it worse. Because you hear it and you go, oh God, I am dying. Especially when that asthmatic wheeze comes up here and he goes, and then if you have to throw up and you can't, and then you really feel like you're lost. So you say, open your mouth, breathe through your nose. It's plugged, I can't breathe through your mouth, breathe through your elbow, breathe through your forehead. We don't care what's plugged. Keep breathing it in. when the peace starts to settle, it radiates around through the body. It's a very funny, undulating thing. It goes on. It's not stale. Peace is very much alive. It's in the asthma wheeze. It's in the pain in the neck. It's in the pain in the back and the shoulder. The peace is in there because we didn't do anything except drop the pressure, and the peace is there. Do you know how we know that biblically? Here's this guy, I think they call him Jesus or something like that, Joshua, Jesu. They had a name for him. He got on a boat with his followers, and the boat just started going into the stormy weather, and it was really bad. And he said, "Peace, be still." And everybody else heard him. But you know what he said? Peace. Be still. Because he didn't tell the peace, be still. Peace. To the other elements, be still. And as they became still, peace settled on the water and the ocean around them. Berush Bashan.
So John Morton is going to be joining us and talking to us this evening about peace. John is the spiritual director of MSIA. He's a teacher, the author of a couple of books about blessings. The blessings already are, and you are the blessing. One of the things I know about John is how hard he works and how he shows up. If there are MSIA, PTS things going on, he's really often there to talk to us about it and teach us and be present. And I don't know where John came from to get here today, but I do remember being in an event one night, and he had just come from Afghanistan. I don't think you came from that far today, John, but that's the kind of dedication that I've seen over the years. And the little script I have here says I can use my own words to introduce him, and that's what I really wanted to say about him, is to just say how dedicated he is to this work and to taking peace all over the world. There are webcasts available for free every month that where you can see John talk more about that and give some more blessings. So I'm done.
Well, I see somebody in our midst. We have Ryan here from, well, I'm going to claim you're from Thailand. It's playing already, huh? That's Thai music. Probably not, but you haven't been in this neighborhood maybe in a while, huh? How long has it been since you?
It's been 20 years since I've been in Michigan.
20 years, okay. Yeah, so in any case, if you didn't know Brian Cuttrell, who used to live somewhere around here, and then has been residing in Thailand and now has a family and a business and a ministry as well. So good to have you here. Anybody else come from quite a ways away to be here today? Go ahead.
Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama. All right. That's very good. Wichita, Kansas. Okay. Knoxville, Tennessee. That's good. Also somewhere? Yeah?
Colorado.
Colorado. Good to see you. Yeah. from somewhere around the world. There's a lot of folks joining us. Welcome, however you're doing that. And so today I just merely came from Los Angeles. That's not so far. But when was that? Monday I was in London with the Mystical Traveler Tour, which some folks are still hanging in there, so maybe there's some of you up past midnight, I think it would be. So welcome if you're tuning in. And I last facilitated this workshop in Madrid, and that was on something like September 5th or 6th. So here we go again, and they made a little gift that it sounds like Roger has queued up. So I heard the music, so that means we could play it?
I think so.
Okay,
We'll
see. But I saw a video a while back that is an animation, kind of a scene, and I'll kind of describe it here for you. It's a young man and his dog in an urban setting somewhere, and they go out for a walk, and then all kinds of things go on that are difficult in today's world. I think that would be the idea. That maybe some of you would recognize, oh, I've been in a situation like that, or that's happened to me, or I felt like that. And I think it's just a wonderful way of kind of getting in the mood of the purpose for tonight's workshop and for us gathered. And then we'll see, because it was generated in Spain they have a different format over there called PAL. Only by the time it gets here, it is not always so friendly. But and then we have, I don't remember what the NTSC or something like that, whatever the format is called here. But here we go. We're going to see if we can share this video with you.
It was so wrong, these four walls crashing in won't stop me now, 'cause I'm alive, I'm out tonight, all night. Everybody needs to know it's the year of the rat. Every day we've got to hold on, 'cause if we hold on, we can find some new energy. Streets with flags unfurled like treasure, thank me for my words. It's a pleasure, just don't ask me to stay, 'cause I'll be gone, but it's alright, I'm okay, always. Everybody needs to know it's the year of the rat. Every day we've got to hold on, 'cause if we hold on, we can find some new energy. one, 'cause one is one, forever one, 'cause one is one, together one, 'cause one is one, forever. Everybody needs to know it's the year of the rat. Everybody needs to know it's the year of the rat. Everybody needs to know it's the year of the rat. Everybody needs to know it's the year of the rat. Every day we've got to hold on, 'cause if we hold on, we could find some new energy.
So it definitely makes a point, and maybe you recognize something about that in your own personal lives at some point. And I just see it as some obvious points about how to find peace in today's world if anything on that order is taking place. I caught tonight that the dog kind of lost its peace, if you notice at one point here, too. And so we can choose to maintain our peace regardless of circumstances. And I know we have some of our principles here for the Institute. I'm just going to see if I can find them. And there they are. It wasn't difficult. And I'll be referring to this more. I think some of you are familiar with the Institute for Individual and World Peace, which John Roger founded quite some time ago. And we identify 4 key principles. So we're trying to make it as simple as we can. Like, how do we live in peace? How do we find peace regardless? So one part of that is peace is present. So that, and then the next part of it kind of tells us more about that. Peace is a choice available regardless of any circumstances. So keep that in mind. The next time it seems like peace is not present and it's not a choice. You know, there are some choices. They don't understand peace. They need something else. The third principle, peace is an inner process. So that would be a way of knowing, well, where do I find it? Inside. That it's also something you can choose. So this is something on the fourth principle that John Roger shared a while back, and I consider it a kind of a definition for peace. Peace is the cessation of againstness. So that's another part of it. If there's any kind of againstness for yourself, then find the cessation, however you manage to do that. And the video kind of demonstrated that if you hold on to your peacefulness, that it tends to transform others. I'm not saying there might not be a price, you know, for your willingness to hold into that and stop it. We're going to be doing a mingle, or let me see if I have some part of that up here as well. Yeah, there's one part of it, and here's another part of it. So consider what peace is for you. What comes to mind, maybe it's not so much a word or words, but it's something about your own experience that you identify as peace. And we'll just put some of this in the room here right now, and you could just maybe yell it out, and I'll point anything.
Quietness.
Quietness. Anybody else got something? Joy. Content. Nature. Freedom. Okay, and there was one up here. Music. Detachment. Acceptance. Love. Cooperation.
Being present.
What's that?
Being present.
Being present. Okay.
Rest.
Rest. You need your rest. That's where your peace is. Okay. And now there's another part to this, and that would be what disturbs my peace is. And just to be aware of that. Right? And sometimes it can be something that seems rather small, but if it disturbs your peace, it disturbs your peace, whatever that is. Anybody have some of those? Conflict. Traffic. Ego. What's that? Something. Absence of clarity, okay. Injustice. Judgment. Pain. Baby's crying. Something spilled on his countertop. See, now we're starting to get there. I was like, there we are. That really bothers me. Okay. Anybody else?
Road rage.
Road rage. Okay. Yeah. Computer crashing. When you move states like so from Illinois to South Carolina and whatever's in between, maybe. Yeah. All right. So we got some idea, and I think we have a lot of space here. Nice, and you could do this however you do this. Maybe you do it with your dog or someone nearby, or you could just do it as a journaling process. So it's a process where you can go up to each other and start out with your name, even if you know each other. It's a way of getting our frequency connected when we say our name. And then what peace is for me, finish that, and what disturbs my peace. So do both parts and share both parts, and then move on to somebody else. And we'll do that for a few minutes, and then we'll go on to our next process. Okay. Any questions about that while I have you? Okay. So go ahead and stand up. We'll use the aisles and the space in the room, and introduce yourself by name and share about your peace and what disturbs your peace. Okay, you can wrap that up and take a seat again. Did anybody notice your experience of peacefulness increase? Yes. Anybody, your disturbance increased? That could happen. My experience is that even if we talk about disturbance, we still have peace in consideration. Like, what disturbs my peace? So if we're doing it from a peaceful consciousness, then we have that experience. If we do it from our awareness of disturbance, then that's what can be increased. We're going to be looking more at that in a while. I wanted to point out some more aspects of what I have experienced about finding peace, being more conscious of peace. And it's important to have this as your understanding. I suppose you could call it your belief, your faith, your trust. Maybe it's your knowledge. But to go with that understanding that it's present, even if you're not so aware of it. So then, even if that's like, okay, so peace is present, but I'm not in peace, that can be the experience. So then peace is a choice. So what are you choosing? And to be conscious of that, and it's available regardless of any circumstances. So just because something's really disturbing, and it may be really disturbing, somebody mentioned pain. If we're in pain, that's our experience. It's very challenging to experience peace while there's a great intensity of the pain. So just understanding that it's a choice, and are you making that choice? And what could you do? What's involved? And we'll be looking more and more of that this evening. Peace is an inner process. So to, again, focus on what are you doing in your peacefulness. So going back to the example of the cartoon, and you might say, well, that was a cartoon. Somebody was drawing it up and imagining, but that doesn't really work. When someone's beating on your head, that's very difficult to stay in your peace. But that, if you just looked at it, is that possible? If we would put flesh and blood on it, is it possible to have that inner awareness of the peace and maintain it regardless of the external circumstances? And peace is the cessation of againstness. So that's an important part of it. I often look at it as the other side of the coin. Like, stop. Like, if what we're doing is disturbing, stop. I just realized that maybe I have another video for this workshop that is good, but maybe some of you have seen it. It's a Bob Newhart, the comedian, routine, and he plays a psychiatrist, and it's like it's 5 minutes, it's max, and then the whole point of his psychiatry is stop it, like whatever it is. And then after a while he says, well, that's it. Now you need to pay my fee because I've given you what, you're going to get from me and my treatment, Stop it. So that's very important to understand, that if we're doing something that isn't working, that's causing disturbance for ourselves, for others, particularly for ourselves, that to look for something that you can stop. Like just stop it, whatever that is. Okay, so we have some tools that I want to bring to your attention, and I'm sure those of you who've been involved with this work, it's coming through the movement of spiritual inner awareness. Is there anybody here tonight and you're brand new to MSI? This is your introduction in some way? Okay, so maybe out there on the internet we might have somebody like that. But in our work, we often are looking at certain principles and then practicing those principles. So we would call them tools. And one of them is visualization. Another way to look at that is the imagination or the creative mind. It's that part of us that can think in pictures. So images, it is what do you see, and then understanding that what you see and what you look at, and John Roger put it this way, energy follows thought. So that we're a creator. So whatever we're looking at, energy, our creative energy is going toward that. So if we're wise in how we do that, then we could picture in ways that we want to create. And so tonight's focus is peace. So in the world, maybe we could go with the images like, well, if I just keep hugging you, you're going to at some point be hugging me. And I could have that image, like get there before it happens. You got the idea? So you see it even if it's not in the outer circumstances. Or if someone's angry, you see them peaceful. Now, maybe this takes some practice. Like it's not so easy to look at somebody who's disturbed and see them peaceful and happy and contented. And then at the same time, in order to picture outside that way or picture somebody else that way, you need to find it in your own reference. It's a demonstration that I'm going to make, and I bet a number of you have seen this, and so let's call this peace. So in order to give you peace, do I need something? I need some peace. So if I can give it to you, right, then maybe we can say, well, I'll go get some more peace here, So consider there's also an endless supply. So if you give it away, because it's an inner source, that you can keep finding more of it within. So if you give somebody your peace away and then it seems like they return disturbance, like you give them the peace, like good morning, and say, what's good about it? Or that's the response, that you can still keep giving more peace even if it's not being returned to you. You want to hang on to that pin, or she just gave me her peace. Okay. And in my experience, it is something that what you sow, you reap. So if we're giving these things, it tends to come back around. Obviously, I didn't invent that. That was said long ago in many forms. That if we want to create something, we need to, in some way, seed it to make it what we're focusing on, what we're picturing. So let's do that as a more in-depth exercise right now. So we're going to visualize. Use your creative imagination. my point of view is you can do it with eyelids open, eyelids closed, but it can work more easily often if you just close your eyelids so that you're more aware of the inner picturing. And I'll say it very simply, imagine peace. And be aware of whatever comes to mind. We'll start with what you picture, what you see. Maybe you see something tranquil. It could be water of some kind. It could be sky. It could be some scene, perhaps in nature. Maybe there's something that you associate with peace. Now we'll shift it here because it can still work with the other inner senses. Earlier, some of you related to music or a sound, so let's consider it could be something you're listening to that is peaceful. Let's open up another sense, so you could smell it. It's ambrosia, or it has a scent that's peaceful. There's another sense, and you could even taste it. But somehow it would come through in a way that's sweet. And then you could sense it in the way that it touches you. So it could be a vibration, it could be a sensation. Maybe it's calming, soothing. And by now some of you may be seeing others who are peaceful. Be aware of whatever else comes to mind as part of the picturing, what you see, and however the other senses are engaged. What you hear, what you smell, taste, and any sensations that you relate to as peaceful. The one that comes to mind is how water can bathe, or light can radiate so that we feel invigorated. When you're ready, you can open your eyes if that works for you. Okay, so there's a tool. If you have something at home, and I'll use this, it could be anywhere really, but let's just start there, that you relate to as, when I see that, it's peaceful. Anybody got something like that? It could be a picture. Maybe it's, some object. Maybe it's what's out your back door or something like that. But that's another way to do it, is to instantly bring to mind something that you relate to as peaceful. And to know that, so that if you ever need it, you could call upon it and picture it. Here's the other demonstration just come to mind. Like, now the dentist is getting the drill and is about to drill on your tooth. So that would be an excellent time to picture something peaceful and relate to that rather than whatever might be disturbing you. Okay, so there's a tool, visualization, what you picture, finding things that are simple. Do any of you carry, like right now, it's within reach, something that you would find peaceful to look at, that you carry it. And it could be words, I didn't mention that, but it could be something like words, but a picture or an object. Anybody have something like that? Okay, some of you. It's like, why do these things work? Because of what they are in our relationship, the relationship we experience, and sometimes it's how we charge it. That we can relate to it in peace and kind of magnetize it. So even if, I'll use this one. Like this could be a source of peace. This is some kind of pen. Like maybe it is. It's a big pen. They're still around. I remember these from long ago. But because I give it that meaning, then I could charge it so that when I see it, it brings peace. It charges peace. So it has like the energy of peace because I charged it. So that's another way to look at this. So now we're going to do another tool. One way I relate to it is the law of empathy. And this is one of the spiritual laws. Might as well mention some of the others. So we have acceptance, cooperation, understanding, enthusiasm, and empathy. And I've been doing this quite a bit this year. I've been letting people know that John Roger did this seminar at a conference maybe somewhere like 1973, so quite a while ago. And the seminar is called The Law of Empathy. And at that seminar, he invokes this law, and it's quite powerful if you haven't heard it. And at the same time, he talks about a Naihu as a way of invoking the law of empathy. And so those of you who've been around MSI know we often do that. So that the Anai part of chanting, so we chant a very ancient name for God, one of the many names, but it's again what we give it. So the intention becomes very important. If we relate to Big Pen as peaceful, then it is because we relate to it that way, so we can give it that meaning. And then let's consider there are not just names, but there are many things in the world, in our universe, that naturally evoke qualities. So we're going to do one that evokes empathy, which is also a quality of peace. And here we go. When you see me do this, we'll start and basically take a deep breath, and out loud we'll be chanting an Naihu, and then when you see me do this, we'll bring it silent. This time the whole building. Now 10 miles in any direction. Now the entire planet. You know that part, well, I I call it the crescendo. Maybe that's not quite accurate for what it is, but it's that last note in the symphony. And it's like it keeps vibrating, even though it seems silent, but we feel the vibration, that everything's vibrating in whatever that note is. Let's just consider we can do that with peace. We can do it when we invoke the law of empathy through the Anihu chant, that you can do that by yourself. You can do it inwardly. So you could do it in traffic. You could do it when something's in conflict in the world. We could do it with the ladies and gentlemen in the United States Congress at the moment, conducting the affairs of this nation. And of course we can send it out to any place, any situation in the world, just by, again, using the other tool, the picturing, so we could picture the situation. You know, that's one of the advantages of devices with screens. They give you pictures. So then relate to it in peacefulness. And if it starts being challenging, you might want to turn it off. Just like, why challenge yourself unnecessarily if it's being difficult? You're allowing something in that isn't working. But if you're returning peace towards what it is, again, with our friend in the animation, that whatever you do, I return peace. To understand it's a choice. Okay, so our next tool is prayer. At the Institute for Individual and World Peace, we do this routinely, and we do it in series, like as a daily opportunity, and you can subscribe. So there's an opportunity for the daily peace prayer to be sent to you as an email, and then it takes you through a process that I find I can do in 1 or 2 minutes easily. So just take it in, take in the words, and then there's often a suggestion as an exercise, as something to be aware of. And it can be sending light. So that's part of it, is that when we do an invocation, then we're asking the higher power that is the source of peace. So what is that? And let's just consider that in the highest consciousness of who we are, in the most powerful consciousness of who we are, peace is a reality. It's the truth. So that when we go into spirit, what is against us doesn't make it. It stops. It ceases. And so there's other qualities that are 100% present for us in our awareness, because the disturbance isn't present. The disturbance is in what I would refer to as a state of illusion. And even though people say, well, if it's illusion, how come it hurts? And I thought, well, let's just say that we have a way of relating to it, so we stay in the illusion. So it's a very powerful illusion. And my ready case in point is the magician's show. If you've ever been to a magician's show, and you know that whatever you're seeing isn't really true, or something like that. And so they carry it out so that we see something that isn't real. And we can believe it, and we can act as if. And that's the same thing. So if we understand that againstness is not our true nature, and it's not anybody's true nature, so when we're doing it out of a false sense of who we are. And we can invoke something that personally is beyond us. And that's another way I would relate to the prayer, is that I'm asking for a power beyond myself that is the presence of peace and the power of peace to come into the situation. And that situation can be my consciousness. And often it is. It's like it begins with me. There's a song, a rather famous song, that peace begins with me. And that's a very important principle. In our institute, we call it individual peace. But that's the first order, is to have peace, that if we don't have peace with ourselves, how can we really give it to somebody else without some form of disturbance? Maybe as wishful thinking. Like, have you ever asked somebody, is there some way we can come to peace about this? That's an excellent question. What's not an excellent question is, why do you keep bothering me? What is it about you that you want to disturb? And see, that's like, would you like more of that? That question is like a way of saying, I would like more of that, or can I take that class? So be careful what the questions you ask. And so another way of, what are you focusing on? What are you doing? So I'll do a prayer. And what I often invite people to do is consider you're doing your own prayer, even though my words come out, to consider that you're doing the invocation very directly and personally. And that my words are maybe just keys to access what's already there that doesn't really need words. It transcends the words. So our focus here is to invoke the peace through a prayer. Here we go. Father, Mother God, we welcome in your presence in full, so we're open to your light, your love, your vibration that comes in as sound. That we come into the consciousness of peace in full, that works through the one we know as the Christ, the presence that is the Holy Spirit, and also through the mystical traveler consciousness, extending wherever that may be into all of the creation. So we take ourselves into the source of peace. However, we are allowed to do that in grace, in our willingness to cooperate and put down, release, let go of any negativity. So this light, this radiation of peace, this consciousness of the spirit of who we are, comes more and more into our awareness. So we can see it, we can hear it. Our senses are alive in this peacefulness. And we become an instrument of your peace. That we anchor it, so it's with us in this earth, in this place, in all the conditions. That we are invoking the empathy that knows the oneness in all things. And so we release any form of againstness. As we are vibrating in this peacefulness and allowing ourselves to become those who fully receive and fully give, we increase the amplification. So more and more this presence, this consciousness of peace is expanded and extended. That we are allowing ourselves to picture wherever this is going and to whoever is going. And also that we are joining others in this purpose for greater peace for ourselves, for those we have relationship with, and for the conditions that come into our lives. That it is all in the presence of the peace. And so we have turned our awareness more fully, more directly into this consciousness that relates to all and gives all in peace. And our faith and our trust, and the authority that we have as those who exercise our spiritual domain. We claim it as done. It is so. Berush Beshan. Another way to relate to Berush Beshan is the peace already is. The peace is present. And that it is a spiritual connection, like a switch we turn on, a way we allow, we acknowledge this peace. We have a chart, and it's available online as well. I'm doing that in my faith. I'm not trying to be telepathic, but is there a way? Okay, msia.org/broadcast. Okay, so if you want to see what we're looking at, well, I can do it like this just in case. So across the top it says one accord, and that's another way I relate to total peace. When there's total peace, there's one accord, that everybody is in harmony. We're all in a tranquility that's a unified field. And there's a couple of seminars that John Roger has done where he relates the one accord. So if you ever see that in the title, or you look it up, there's some beautiful references for what that is. It also says peace is present, so that's part of the principle we have here. If you're looking, it would be on your left, there's a vertical word againstness. On the right side, it says peace. And if you notice in the middle, there are also some vertical words: intention, awareness, and willingness. That's always activated in the process toward peace. And that's a way we relate to it, that it's the process toward peace. We have a workshop by that name. And it's a way of understanding that by our choice, we make a choice toward peace, or we make choices towards againstness. So it's important to decide, well, what is your intention? So that word is important. Do you want to have a fight? Sometimes, if you really answer that honestly, you say, right now the way I'm feeling, yes, I do. Would you like to indulge me in my fight? I'm looking for a fight here. I need to work out some conflict that I'm carrying. If you have children and you have two of them or more, sometimes it's like, okay, here's the gloves or whatever, or you just like let them have at it. And sometimes, that's the quickest way to resolve what's going on here, this disturbance, is to let them just kind of have it out a bit without hurting each other. That would be a key. Awareness. So there's another part of it, is what's your awareness? And part of that would be, what do you want to create? And to understand at all times, if you're not making it better, you're making it something. So if it's not getting better, then what direction are you taking it? So do you want to have more peace? Whatever you would put in there, happiness, joy, wealth, health. This can work with all of that. What do you want to create? And I'm going to plug the intention, opportunity, health, and prosperity. Did I get that right? Anybody taking the IHOP class? Okay, we got a few in here. And my understanding is that because it's online, you can do it. It's facilitated by Dr. Polke, and it's offered once a month as a weekend class. And look it up if you want to know more about it. But one of the keys there is the intention, opportunity. So tonight we're focusing on the intention and opportunity of peace, greater peace. How will we do that? Well, willingness is a key. So if you're ever in conflict, if there is ever disturbance that you're aware of, then check out your willingness. Are you willing to do something about it? Or are you more in a position, well, if they change, yeah, but they're never going to change, because those people don't change. And often it's our attitude that we're not really willing to change it. So we have some keys also that relate to, well, what goes towards againstness and what goes towards peace. So let's start with the againstness, and we call these issues. Withholding, miscommunication, control, irresponsibility, disrespect, judgment, mistrust, resistance, confusion, and there's more. We call that etc. And the quality of it is it's closed, it's contracting. So if you have tension, if you feel there's a disturbance in the force, that you can be aware of that there's something closing down. What's going on? And that can move it towards awareness, like what's the issue? What would you like? What would you like to create? On the process side, going towards peace, you can see that it corresponds often like the other side of the coin. So there's participation, communication, acceptance, responsibility, as in taking responsibility. Not, you're responsible for this. It's your fault. Your responsibility. To honor. Often, there's not honoring going on, respect going on. To forgive. Often what's allowing things to stay in against us is not letting go of the past. Not being willing to forgive what has happened so that there can be a change. The word that follows that often is trust. Well, I don't trust you. I don't want to forgive you because that's like giving you a license to do it again. Well, okay, there's a kind of a risk there, but what do you want to create? And often there is a need to trust somebody, to give them another chance. One of the practical sides of that is stay out of firing range if you can. Like if something hit you before, well, get to a position so it can't hit you again. Does that always work? Not in my life, it doesn't always work. So sometimes it is a risk. It is a willingness to engage in trust, to engage in forgiveness. And sometimes it doesn't quite work out. But what are we doing? We're doing things where that can be a price. There can be like, my life is being spent on greater peace. I'd rather have that than at the end of the day I didn't try. If you know the talents parable in the Bible, it's like one approach is if you're given money and you could spend it, one approach is, I don't want to risk losing it, so I'll just bury it. That way I can't lose it. But then what did you do with it? And what did you do with your opportunity to create more peace? If you hold back, you don't engage, and sometimes that can look like a confrontation, where you come into the intention towards peace is, well, your awareness is like, I experienced you in disrespect, I experienced you judging and resisting. Can you help me understand? So understanding is one of the keys, and seeking understanding. In conflict resolution, it's a big key, just like getting people to talk, and not talk in platitudes or on the surface, but talk about, well, what really is the issue? And often those issues are not spoken. Well, they're spoken when you're on the other side, but not when you're at the table or you're in the discussions of let's work this out. You know, what is it that is bothering you? What is it that you don't want to do? Getting into that area so that if you don't understand, if it doesn't make sense, seek the understanding. And there's a letting go. That can look like, isn't that forgiveness? Well, and sometimes it's like letting go of the club in your hand, like, you know, like you're saying to somebody, I'm your friend, I'm peaceful. It's like, well, why are you carrying a club? Well, if you do something I don't like, I'm going to smack you. It's like, well, that doesn't sound like peace. You know, maybe we should work this out. So we have differences. You know, the Rodney King question, why can't we just get along? We have differences, so how about we tolerate differences? We have, you know, a willingness to allow different ways of living, different ways of expressing. And that's where the peacefulness is. And the quality of the process toward peace is open. It's expansive. So any questions about this chart, because in a way it's instructive if you take it with you. I carry a wallet-size version. Let me see if that's true. I'm going to test myself. I say this, but do I really carry it? Let's see if it's in here somewhere. I got a business card. I got Jar's Secret of Soul Transcendence. I mentioned that. I see if you would learn the secret of soul transcendence, look only for the good, for the divine in people and things, and all the rest leave to God. I carry it, and Angel's flashing hers, so I know she's carrying it. So let me just see. Maybe it's up here. You know, sometimes I give it away. You know. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So that's just a reminder that I want to. I think I'm checking one more place, and then my whole wallet's falling apart here in public, you know, so everybody knows everything about me now. Look, I even have this. Look at that one. Yes, someone gave that to me on the street, so yes. Is this your personal card? Okay. So here's what it looks like, and it's the entire chart is on there. And my eyes, I can still read that. Isn't that great? What a blessing. So last time I checked, we do have these available through our institute and through MSI. Debbie Roth, if you're out there, maybe you could let us know if these cards are still available in some form. Look what I'm doing, Angel. I'm even letting you know that, because now I can say I carry it with me and be good on that. Okay. She's working her forgiveness now, yes. You know, there was a group of us, about 20 years ago, and we were developing a workshop for the Institute for Individual and World Peace, and it's still around as something we can do, like in a weekend or that kind of thing. But there was a group of us for months that we were just trying to find the principles, and that's how we found these 4 principles up here. And then we also worked out this chart as a way to always be available to find what word is it on here that I could apply, or what is the issue I'm stuck in that's not allowing me to go towards the process of peace. So just looking at some of those words, am I resisting? Am I withholding communication? Am I in mistrust? And finding these things, then what is the counterbalance? And how would I apply that? And work it. And that often, what we're dealing with is, it's not necessarily easy, but it's what's up. If you consider yourself dedicated to peace, if you consider yourself an ambassador of peace. And it can be humbling, to basically realize I'm still working this out, that I don't always remember to stay peaceful. When somebody puts something on my counter that I don't want there, or the screen doesn't behave the way it's supposed to behave. Okay, I'd like to open it up here. We call this sharing. So if you do have something you'd like to share about your own process toward peace, or maybe it's your process toward againstness, and maybe wanting some clues or something on the order of a suggestion that might help you moving more towards the peace. And if you have an experience, that's also. But we're going to bring a microphone over here, and then right over there. There we go. And start out with your name.
My name is Lorraine Andrew, and I'm asking John for some clues to trust more.
Okay, so where's the trust begin? Class. It's all, that's the same answer over and over for whatever you want to create. So how's your trust in yourself?
I think I trust me, and I'm hearing what you're saying, so obviously if I'm not trusting others, I'm not trusting me.
One of the things that goes along with trust is knowledge. And think of, we'll do some work with it here a bit. So we spell it like this, and the first part starts out TRU. So what's true? And let's consider that truth is also knowledge. Does that make sense? That if it's true, it's something we can know. And if it's not true, then how can we know it? It's not true. It's unknowable. It's like, well, is it because of my lack of awareness? Possibly. So then having more awareness of what's true can be a key. Then the more you get into this, here's something that comes in as a byproduct. Confidence. Because the more you have knowledge, then you're not entering into things that are false. Like, well, that's a false move, or I wouldn't have done that if I knew better. So as you know better, then you don't tend to make mistakes. You don't enter, including your relationship with others. In MSI terms, it's very practical. Let's check it out. So that it's okay to ask questions. Well, how would you do that? When would you do that? Would you write that down? Would you sign it? Would you mind if my lawyer make sure it's legal and it would work in a court of law, so that if we ever were in conflict, we would resort to this statement, and the statement would help us remember, what did we agree to again? Some of you know this, where my history says it began with Insight seminars, and basically this occurrence kept happening over and over, where people would come to John Roger about something that didn't work out well, and there was some kind of error, and then the question eventually would come around to, did you write it down? Did you write it as an agreement? Did you copy them? Did you copy whoever was involved? Guess what the answer was over and over? No. We were so busy, I just thought they would do it. But memories are convenient, and they often don't remember, or they think But have you ever had that experience where you go and read it and go, I don't remember signing that. Well, is that your signature? And I was there when people, when John Roger would say, is that your signature? And they go, well, yes, I think it is. It's like, well, then that's the agreement. And it still applies. And if you know insight, you know we teach how to renegotiate. We also teach that there's a price when you don't keep your agreements. You don't stay true. So if you become inconsistent, if you become unreliable, then the confidence goes, the mistrust comes in. So developing trust is being true to yourself, but also having the bell inside that rings true. And you know, we would say, does that ring true or does that go clunk? Like, I didn't quite hear the ring in that. And these are qualities, so that it's actually in your favor to ask questions. Like I give my trust when it's honored and respected, but I don't just allow somebody to basically say, hey, give me your money and I'll pay you back next Friday. Now, you know, you might say, well, sometimes you might do that, right? Like if John Rogers said, hey, give me your money and I'll pay you back next Friday. Or somebody like that in your life. But what is that based on? It's based on trust. I can trust you because you have fidelity with your truth. What you say follows. If you give your word, it goes. And there's another part to this, that if you give your word and you don't really do that, and someone, let's say, I know you as a trustworthy person, and they say, well, Alf didn't really do that, what he said he would do. And then knowing Alf as a trustworthy person, I would say, well, the Alf must have had a damn good reason to do something different. Do you understand that? That something more important came through. So if he changed it for a good reason. So then I would trust it. What's that become? It becomes faith. Now, this word for me has higher power in it. So I use it in relation to, well, that's God's truth. That's a truth beyond me. So I just trust it out of this thing we call natural knowing, like I just know it. And I know it as a truth. So then, but it can come into situations very practically with your relationships, but very importantly, to come into yourself. So more and more you trust yourself that if you forget something and you do it the way that you agreed upon, before condemning yourself, some of you know what I'm talking about. Like, what an idiot I am. I was supposed to be there at 7. Hang on. Consider that your consciousness is moving in a higher order. I know that the IRS goes, I'm moving in a higher order. That's why I didn't pay my taxes on April 15th. Okay? So sometimes this won't exactly work. But then again, if you understand that there's a reason, that there's a higher power reason when things don't go the way we expected, or the way that we thought they would, or they were agreed upon, when we're really being true, it'll develop, well, actually, I see it as a protection for everyone. Because it has a way of taking in from the higher power things I'm not aware of. So if I miss the train, or I miss the place, or I oversleep, or rather than come into condemnation, hang on. Is there something else that I can consider here? Is there a better plan, a higher plan that's in motion? And because I ask for the highest good in my life, and I do my part to stay in accordance with that, in harmony with that, that's what gets delivered. So even if you don't keep your agreements, it's because the highest good is changing it. You see how the protection's in that? That if you're doing everything you can to abide in what's true for you, so that if you change it, if it becomes a new dynamic truth, there's a really good reason for it. Anything else?
No, thank you. And welcome to Kalamazoo. Thank you.
I love coming back here. It's like kind of almost a ritual at this point. Yes, come over here to the lawn and bring you a microphone.
I'm Lon, and thank you for being here, John. Any helps, any suggestions, any insights on getting to peace while you're in the process of grieving?
Sure. My point of view about grief is and I'm looking at it in a particular way, so go with me on this. It's a honest process. So the honesty is I feel a loss. Even if you say, well, I shouldn't, I'm not supposed to be attached. And it's like, well, you are. There's the honest to God truth. You are grieving. You are missing that person. You have emotions. You have thoughts. You have memories. So there's a part of that which you need to do as a completion. And when we do this in a proper way, again, it brings in a protection that people will actually help us. It's like I know a number of cultures do this, but not just the Italians, but it's like, I don't know, we're all gonna come over and cook, and we'll be cooking for days. It's like, then somehow we relate to it as, maybe too much. That, well, you might as well have a little nourishment, a little this, a little that, but the idea is that people will come close to support, and we draw it in as support. There's another kind of grieving which I don't really consider grieving. I just consider as indulging pain, suffering, mourning, and basically we're just using it in some way as a weakness, as a kind of manipulation often, to avoid responsibility, to avoid what's next, to try to hang on. And often there's a perception of weakness. I can't handle it. I'm not ready. I don't know what to do. It's just a number of reasons why people stay indulging. I don't have that experience with you. What I do see is it's something on the order of a birthing, and often when the mourning is related to a death, it would seem odd, like, well, why would I be in the process of birthing? It's actually a death. And it's like, if we understand it as a birthing. And yours too. So, well, what do you mean by that? It's like, well, you're going to a new level too. Or a new life too. So it's that idea that if God closes a door, there's a window opening, or at least a chimney, you can go up or down. There's another way through and into a new experience. So that's part of the trust. But it's like, why is winter necessary? Why do all the leaves come off the tree and there's nothing for months, and it's cold and it's frozen? And it's because that's the order. That's the natural order. So there's a cycle of an emptiness, and to really finish that. So to understand these cycles, and there are, I don't have any in mind, but there are people that are very gifted at describing mourning and healing and rebirthing and psychologically. So, maybe there's a reference or somebody in the room here can, you might go, I wish you wouldn't have said that. They got 50 references here on what I should do about my mourning and my grieving. But in any case, that there are ways to help yourself and allow yourself the process, the cycle that you're in, that you're missing someone, and it's difficult. And there's a truth about it, like, well, you can't replace that. It's like, that's right, because they carry an individuality. We all carry an individuality. So the idea that you're just going to clone the frequency, it's like, no, you're not. They carry that. Even if they re-embody, they won't carry the same frequency. Do you understand that? It's like, oh, wow, it's like, you can't really get that back. It's like, there is a truth, like, there was a one and an only. It's like, right, if you put all the factors in, it is singular. Like, you won't be back this way again. Like, right, because that's done. But there's something new than understanding that you're in that process. Sometimes people try to rush it, that's the other part. And it's like, well, you didn't do the grieving, you didn't do the closure, the completion with that. You need to do that, because if you don't do it now, it'll be there to do later. And it's kind of like you have to go back and dig it up. And that doesn't really work particularly well. It's like, while it's raw, and when you feel raw, that's a sign. Like, my guts are turned inside out, or my brain's scrambled. I don't really have a brain right now. I don't seem to be able to think. Okay, well, what are you aware of? I'm stunned, I'm shocked. Okay, it's not a great time to drive a car. You understand the practicality here? It is a good time for somebody to make you something, because you don't want to go into some kind of toxic shock because you don't have the blood sugar you need just to hold your head up. So maybe somebody says, eat this. And they know you need to eat something, because you're in a shock, so you're like acting like you're dead, you're not dead. So that kind of thing, just understanding it, and understanding that there are balances in these things. So some people overindulge it. Like, that hurts, so I'll try to numb it out with food or alcohol or some other substance. It's like, well, that doesn't really work either. But being aware of it, that works. And doing things that help move you along. So that's a key, that it's progressive. That there's a time for spring, like and to enter into that cycle, not like, no, I'm going to do Groundhog Day for another 6 weeks. And it's like, I know, but it's August now. Come out of the hole. It's summer. Like, it is not like there's 6 more weeks of summer. There isn't. You're making that up. Live. Get involved. And, those of you who are friends, family, loved ones, ministers, often it is a time to reach out and help somebody, like, come on, let's go roller skating. Roller skating, I haven't roller skating since I was 5. Yeah, you're a little overdue, but that's okay. We'll take it easy. We won't do any slopes. So it's this kind of thing that you're ministering to yourself, bottom line. And anything on the order of shut down, close it down, if you're getting rest, okay. But if you're just doing it to avoid, or to I want to push the death button on myself, like I don't have a life anymore, that's not going to work. You do have a life. So, it's being aware in your own way of, are you doing this in a way that is expansive enough, lifting and also nurturing, completing, healing, so you're done. And there comes a place where you're in liberation. In the soul consciousness, that's the reality. That death is not a true state. It's an illusionary state. So the reality is, when we really see it, we see, well, the soul has gone on to a more expanded state, because that's the ticket. When you release the body, you go to a more expanded state. I know there's things like, well, I thought there's purgatory and hell, and so, okay, yeah, for those who want that because that's what they believe, and they want to, then in a way that's indulged. Like, okay, you want to know what hell's like, you've self-created it, and we'll deliver it. Until you've had enough of that, you're sick and tired of that. It's like, help, get me out of here. Anyway, that's enough of that commercial. Like, that's not really necessary. So the reality would be, when you come into the understanding, then there's a liberation, there's a celebration. That's understanding. Then you can have that for yourself. But not until you've ministered emotionally, even physically. Like, I smelled them, or I go to reach for them and they're not there, or I call their name and I realize that, these things, you go, well, it's habitual. And it is. It's in the subconscious level. And there's some of that we just need to allow to take its time. Like, you don't rush a 3-year-old, or you're going to be dragging the kid. You know what I'm talking about. It's like there's a way to sort of nudge and jostle and encourage and change the subject so that they come along. And then in a way you're saying, well, I could do this much faster. It's like, but that's not what's going on here. You're assisting them to move into their next level. So let's go at their pace. And also, but they're not run by what they're doing that's an indulgence. You're helping them and helping yourself to move along. Anything else on that?
Thank you, John.
Okay.
I love you.
Yeah, love you too. Okay, the young man there, and we're going to bring you a microphone and start up sharing your name.
Well, thank you. This is Sam speaking.
Hi, Sam.
I think that peace for me is becoming a much more active thing. As I've become more active in the movements of the world, it's much more of a struggle to maintain peace. And I think that it's real easy for me to kind of shy away from that and just say, oh, I'm peaceful, I'm in the loving and this and that, and you all know the voice. But I got a little response. That's pretty good. That was even bigger. I'm okay. But no, but it seems like that peace is out of necessity becoming a very active thing for me that is sort of its own being. And it has to sort of, if this makes sense, it has to fight for its own survival in all of this chaos. And it sometimes doesn't seem peaceful. And this is an irreconcilable syllable, I don't know how to say it. It's a sort of a paradox. I don't know if you can maybe speak to this, but that the fight to be peaceful is so worthwhile that you have to fight to maintain the balance. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, obviously I'm sure those in this group would know I wouldn't use the word fight unless you can magnetize it. And we can toward victory when the understanding is, well, we're using that word to what? Create the impetus, the inertia, the action that intensifies. And to understand that there's a time for it to be in 5th gear or 7th gear, a very high rate and intensity, like full intensity. Like I'm striving towards peace with all my might, with everything I've got. And then there's another kind of peace that can work more like patience, silence, where you're allowing a rhythm that comes around, and so you're not in an urgency. And often that works really well, pausing, holding, while someone allows themselves to come back around in their rhythm or a situation. there's another principle, and I don't know what it's called. I'm sure there's a name for it, but it's essentially if you go into a room and you have instruments and you hit the vibration of an A note or a particular frequency, and you can measure these things in waves and signs, and spelled like S-I-N, that sign, such that everything will start vibrating at that. So to understand that often our peacefulness is being exercised as an instrument like a lightning rod or a battery, where you bring in the energy of peace because you carry it, and then it's being allowed to vibrate into the dissonance, the conflict, the disturbance, and the force. And sometimes the reality of that is it's like, well, I'm now picking up the vibration of the disturbance and the force. And again, I would remind you that peace is within, it's a source within, but if you're not making it, it's practically you're upset, you're disturbed. Now you're becoming part of the disturbance.
That's right.
Then get out.
Well, and like I don't
Stop it.
I didn't necessarily mean a fight, but like you said something earlier about being charged up or being in charge, and I don't really know too much about that or have too much access to learn, but I think somehow being in charge, especially in a chaotic situation, and learning how to be masterful in peace is the sort of the war that the human has to go through. Our mind doesn't know how to engage that, and so I feel that I have to learn about being in charge and things like that. But I got to say, as maybe we move on here, I appreciate so much what you guys are doing here, because there's not a whole lot of opportunity to learn these things and to have a space to where we learn appropriate action and things like that. And I want you guys to give yourselves a hand for doing what you do on the planet and being as engaged as you are. So.
Okay, let's give ourselves a hand. So a couple of things there that we can carry it as a picture, as an awareness that we are an invocation of the peace. Light is another word that we use as a magnetizing, a charging of the peace. So when we say light, we're talking about what I heard J.R. talk about in the moment of peace, where he said, peace. And then that's the awareness of what's the purpose? Are we calling forward? What's our intention now? Peace. Be still. Be still becomes a practical way of invocation. Like, well, what are you doing? I'm being still. Can that be so powerful? The water harmonizes with it. To really think about that, could we do something such that everybody dropped their weapons? Could we do something such that everybody let go of their anger in 2 seconds? What would that be? Well, it'd be powerful peace presence that melts the weapons into something like plowshares, whatever they look like emotionally. It's soothing. And the images in the animation, like the transformation that we kept seeing with the characters who were agitated, disturbed, violent, and then it later became buildings and trees, and everything started showing this consciousness of peace. How would the tree reflect it? The leaves would appear. New life would appear. The factories would work in a way that it doesn't put dark stuff in the air. There's another way to produce what we want to produce, and finding those kinds of ways and putting that vibration into our field. And to understand it begins with one person, that it can be that powerful that one person can carry it in such a way as it could be like an infection or an invasion, like we're invaded by peace. I'm sure some of you were at the seminar, and I don't know when it was, when John Roger talked about the gene of peace. Like it's a genetic and changing our DNA so we're toward peace. Oh, you're from the peace group, which you kind of mentioned. I want to give you a round of applause that you guys are doing something peaceful, and yet now we have you surrounded, so you're part of it. So then it becomes us. And then again, doing it so it's in the building. A little personal story, and maybe I'm also being selfish, so you can send light and the good vibes, the good peace genes. My wife Lee, where's Lee? She's doing home building, nesting, because we just got this new house. Well, we had a number of people installing things. If you've done this exercise, oh yeah, they still install telephones, and it's like, yeah, you can do that, but then there's now cables, but now there's wireless things, but they still install these things, and then people are coming over in large numbers in one day, it seemed. But over and over, and even if we just met them, they were commenting about, I really like this house, or this is fun, making comments like I had fun. So there was a supervisor who came over when they were doing a bunch of trimming in the outside, and he goes, I don't know why, but I don't want to get back to my office. I know I should, but I'm just having too much fun. And I go, I don't even know why I'm having fun supervising what's going on here. And, it took me back, and I went, okay, this light stuff really works. You can put it in the house, and people can feel it, and they can walk into it and be transformed by it. And then in turn, that I'm transformed by it. Because in my own relationship, it was, starting to be a little on the frustrating side of things. And I didn't realize it was going to be this thing, and they never told me about that, and that kind of consciousness. So that doing these things that we're talking about as the tools and the principles, and it is work, so there is a work of peace, and there's a dedication, so that it's important to think about it. That is part of your day. Like, let's see, what am I doing today? Oh, I'm finding peace in the world. I'm a peacemaker. And just reminding, and then what is that? So then when I'm entering into the traffic flow today, I bring peace to that. Anyway, we'll do one more and see where that goes. Right here.
Thank you. My name is Nelly, and I experienced very unusual, very peaceful time this summer, and I want to share with you. I was in one of the harbors in Rhode Island, and people having good time just sitting on the rocks and watching boats moving out and into the harbor. And as one couple said, well, come and sit with us. And whatever they projected was so peaceful or so special, so sweet, that despite of my nature, I had to swim, I need to go further, this is my plan. I sat with them, and they said, we make a day of watching the boats, in other words, world in motion, peacefully moving in the harbor, out of the harbor. This is a ferry to Block Island, here is a fisherman's boat. And it was just mind-blowing, wow, in all my life I never, and I have been to this place before, gave myself the pleasure and the gift of doing this one, totally peaceful, and just observing and being part of that. And this is what I wanted to share with you. So multiple, things which can bring the peace into the soul, to the mind, to the world. And it was spreading around, definitely. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So we're going to do a peace blessing. That's a bonus. Yeah. a bonus. And notice I said we, so I'm including any rocks in your pockets. So the collective we. We're doing this together and wherever you're out there. And one of the ways that peace works is in what we call the imagination, so that we can see it. If we can behold it, it can become, and to understand that we are invoking new energies of peace, that we're bringing them onto the planet. And of course, I'm sure if we consider the conditions in the world, we could easily be aware of, well, there's this great disturbance. I don't see how it's going to really much help. Or haven't we done that before? And then it didn't last. It's like, whatever that is, let that go. That's something to let go. That we're in the possibility of peace everlasting. And I'm sure that you've heard those words before, and let's consider that's what we're invoking here. So again, Father, Mother God, we open ourselves up in our consciousness and our attunement as peacemakers. And we find within what appears as a flame. And we know it isn't a flame that burns, but it's a flame that ignites. So there's a spark that constantly is radiating a light. And also the energy that this flame has, an energy that's powerful and potent in what it radiates all around. So we can feel the energy of the flame, again, without being burned. As we're also taking on this consciousness that we are a flame, that we are lit in this presence of peace. And also we radiate the light. We take a moment in this blessing to allow what is in the flame as a clarifying, purifying presence to release, to clear, balance, and heal. So it purifies in substances that may release like a smoke, like heat that moves away. So what remains is tranquil, is harmonious. What we also understand is that we hold the peace, that this flame is an eternal flame. And we know that is so, past the mind, past the doubts, the judgments or fears, and whatever memories. So this flame is purifying and releasing memories that are not necessary, not serving. We understand this flame is of the eternal now, that what is here is a beautiful energy, an energy that knows all as precious of God, beloved, inherently good. So we're releasing in this flame what is not of this order. And we understand intuitively that this is constant, that whatever comes forth to be purified, cleansed, and released into the nothingness from which it came is done in this flame. And we also realize we carry it as the eternal nature of everlasting peace. It is a gift. And with this gift comes the responsibility to uphold the peace. It is a sacred honor that we understand it's an anointing in that divine presence that is peace and loves all. So we understand the reality that it becomes a great trust. And we take it on like a mantle that we carry. And we know we carry it in our eyes, so that we look upon others. This flame brings us to the awareness of the flame in the others, even if it is in a place that's still unconscious and unrevealed. We see it. We understand we can always look and allow this light that comes from this flame to go out through our eyes and how we think and how we feel. And regardless of how often we have forgotten, and if we forget again, we bring our consciousness and return it to the flame. So whatever, again, needs any form of purification, clearing, and releasing is done immediately. And we just take a moment to also visualize that this flame is in the core of this earth. That presence we know as the Logos. And those who carry it as a mantle of spiritual strength. So it is always with us here. That this is a peaceful world. A world that God created in peace and harmony. And we are those blessed in that gift, in that opportunity to restore the peace upon all and into the world. So it is done. Beverish Beshan. So thank you. I know Kay is going to come back up and remind you of some things, but I'll do my own reminder. Yes, I'm going to be here tomorrow morning. It's 9, right? 9 is tomorrow morning, so we're starting a little earlier. Is it 8? I thought it was 9. 9. Sunday, it's 8. But tomorrow we'll start here at 9. And we do have the Walking in the Light workshop. So if you're coming from Peoria tonight, you can still make it. Perhaps Windsor, yeah. Wherever you're coming from, but it's a great, wonderful opportunity to come into the consciousness of the Christ. And that's really what it's about, that's an anointed consciousness that we can all partake in our own way. It was originally done at a conference as a surprise workshop. It's still surprising and very powerful. We have a few new developments with how we visualize it and share that with you. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those things, sharing them for the first time with the new changes. And then we have this opportunity to cooperate with whatever the power adjustment is that's going to be on Sunday morning. So in case you didn't hear, we're done by 11. That's our focus. And I figure we're going to do that. So God bless you all. Hope to see many of you in the morning, and please welcome Kate back up here.
God bless you, John. So, PTS classes starting here tomorrow. We've already talked about that. 9 o'clock. Doors open at 8:30. If you're new to IIWP, Institute for Individual and World Peace, you can find lots of information at iiwp.org online. And Debbie, who is the head, the coordinator? She is. She says, yes, those cards, those wallet cards are definitely available. And you can write to her, peace@iiwp.org, or call her. So I'll write that up here in a minute for you. If you're new here tonight, new to MSI and PTS, we have some books out on the table called Journey of a Soul at, right out here on the table. I saw them when I came in. And I think there's some information about discourses, which is one of the main study materials that we use in MSIA too, out there on the table. There are also lots more study materials available at msia.org/store. And I think, anything else? Any other announcements? Anybody? Lori? Oh, yes. We've had a request that people leave their perfume home tomorrow. Some folks are really sensitive to it, so it helps if we don't wear that. Get a good night's sleep, and if you're coming, I know what else I wanted to say. If you are not signed up for the workshop tomorrow, we have room. You do need to be on discourses. We can make arrangements for that to happen, I believe. And I think, got a question here? Journey, the book on the table? Yes. Yes. Yep. Those are available and they are free. So, and we do have products over here too. So go and look at all of the lovely things that we have on the products table. Okay. Great. Thanks. See you tomorrow.
You smile like an angel, you sing like a dove. You laugh like a ray of light on a moonbeam of love. You are talking to me, saying something about a journey. In my dreams I am going out to sea. I've got my bags packed and I'm ready to start. Let the wind play a song on the strings of my heart. Captain, oh my captain, can I place my trust in you to deal with the wind and the tides and the depth of the shimmering blue? Or when you're rocking and a rolling, sailing on a ship of Jesus, you know the words and the music that can please us. And you know it's so hard sometimes, but I'm learning to play my part. Let the wind play a song on the strings of my heart. We'll sail by the pole stars, we'll sail by the winds of time. I am a restless soul, but patience I guess is no crime. When you're rocking and a rolling, sailing on a ship of Jesus, you know sometimes times how you tease us. Well, you know it's so good to know that nothing can keep us apart. Let the wind play a song on the strings of my heart. Roll on, you worried watchers, ride on, you troubled breezes. Freedom comes by like a bird who flies whenever he pleases. But when you're rocking in a road and sailing on a ship of Jesus, the man who gave his life to teach us. And I'm learning a little each day from all of the love you impart. God sings through the wind on the strings of my heart. God sings through the wind on the strings of my heart. I love to walk along these mountain paths, find a way to reach the sea. I remember how you used to laugh as we go running and dancing